What is happening, people, and welcome everybody to In the End Zone UK. Thank you for joining our weekly American football podcast. I'm your host, Dom, and today is our last podcast of the NFL 2021 season. What an incredible season it has been. So many twists and turns, ups and downs, mainly downs for me and Dave, Giants and Seahawks fans here in the End Zone, but it has been an unbelievable season. In this episode, we'll be looking back at the NFL Honors, which is the end of season awards that were announced this weekend. But more importantly, we will be recapping the reason why we do this, the reason why teams play football, and we will be looking back at the Super Bowl 56, discussing all the actions from the game and how the Los Angeles Rams became Super Bowl champions, defeating the Cincinnati Bengals. Before we can look back on all of that stuff, let me introduce the other half of the In the End Zone team. Across the mic, as usual, is my co-host. It is Big Dave. Big Dave, how is it going?
All good. I'm a little bit glad the season's over. I'm getting ready in my mind now for next season. So I feel like the new season starts, yesterday. But, yeah.
We need it, don't we?
Things to look forward to.
Giants and Seahawks fans need a new season, don't we?
Definitely do.
Good stuff. Yeah. It's the off season already. We're 2 days in, but we've got to look back on the final of this 2021 season. And this episode is going to be called The Greatest Show on Turf. That's because this week was an absolute show, a head-to-head of the two best teams in the NFL, the Rams from the NFC and the Cincinnati Bengals representing the AFC. And it was excitement from pretty much start to finish, right, Dave? Excitement from the very beginning because we had Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson on the pitch before the game had even begun.
Yeah, he looks like a very average-sized man when he stood next to us NFL players, doesn't he? Which is scary to think of.
Yeah. Definitely. He doesn't look like the beast that is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in general, but he's surrounded by blokes that are like 350 pounds and like 6'8". The man's like 6'5" and like 270.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah, but that was a good start to the Super Bowl, having the most electrifying man in sports entertainment reading out the intro for the Super Bowl, giving it the finally. I loved it anyway. It was good fun.
Old school. You're a big fan of The Rock, though, aren't you?
Big fan of The Rock, but he's the ultimate hype man, isn't he? He's like the ultimate hype man. He was back in wrestling, and now he's just doing it like he's got his finger in every fucking pie he can get hold of at the minute. But yeah, it was good. It was good to get the intro, and that was just the start of the show, and yeah, what a show it was. I mean, the game was close. It was a fantastic game of football. I kind of think we got to see a lot of offense in the first half and a lot of defense in the second half. It was a game for whatever football fan you wanted to be, and we had a musical delight in the middle of it as well. But we'll break down the game on the clock in just a little while. But for now, as per usual, it's time to warm those hands up and get them ready to slap or sign. So, before we've spoken about the game, Dave, there will be some players that are catching heat from you and catching some praise from me in slap or sign. But can you, with a big Rams win and to clinch the Super Bowl, which is the prize of all prizes in football, can you please tell me one player that contributed towards that win for the Rams? Who is your NFC sign?
My NFC sign, I think some of these are going to be pretty similar. But Cooper Kupp is the person I'm signing.
Nice.
It's going to come as no surprise. He walked away with the MVP award in the game. But he's had a phenomenal season. He had the receiving triple crown for the year. So he had the most receptions, most receiving yards. Most receiving touchdowns, was it?
Yeah,
what the other one was? The man's absolutely balled out. He's a player in the past who's recovered from an ACL tear, so his future seems very bright. And absolutely nobody would have expected it from him this year.
No.
He was a middle of the pack kind of wide receiver. So for him to come out this year and do what he's done, you've got to give some credit to Stafford because he's the one who's been passing him the balls. But that the final drive, which we'll go on to talk about later on, Cooper Kupp was unguardable.
Mm-hmm. He's just carried that form from the regular season straight into the off season, and he's in the playoffs. He's been like Mr. Clutch, and that is, as much as you say, you got to give some credit to Stafford. I feel like almost any quarterback could have thrown at him some of the times and some of the space that he generates himself to being open. He is a hell of a player, and he arguably single-handedly on the offense managed to take him to that Super Bowl win. What was it? They have 2 touchdowns, was it?
Yeah, 2 touchdowns and 92 yards. So yeah, he had a great game. He's had a great season. So well deserved.
Yeah. Nice one, Cooper Kupp. You've given him some love this year. He must have had at least 4 or 5 signs this year from between us two.
He's a good player.
He is.
He's a good
Cooper
season.
Kupp. Fantasy prospect for next year, perhaps as well. Maybe.
Yeah.
Got to be. Okay, so Cooper Kupp helped them get there. Who also helped them get there in the AFC by being utterly terrible? Can you please give us your AFC slap?
My AFC slap. I'm going to slap Joe Burrow. And this might come as a shock to some people, but I think the Bengals had this game won. They had it on lockdown. They were up by 4 points in the fourth quarter. So they got the ball back with 11 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, I think it was. And they held the ball for maybe 5 minutes, but they could have had it so much longer. They could have drained the clock right down. Mm-hmm. All they had to do was just put some drives together. They were running the ball. They were basically running it, not kind of at will, but Joe Mixon with 15 rushes for 72 yards is a good effort. Do you know what I mean? If he has another 5 rushes, he's over 100 yards. Mm-hmm. And they just didn't. He didn't manage the clock well enough. So whoever's calling the plays can call the plays. He was calling pass plays, or he's calling run plays, whatever it is. You need to be taking that clock down to 1 second every single snap. Mm-hmm. And for 5 snaps in a row, he was snapping the ball at 12 seconds. That's a minute that he's giving up at that game clock. And you can't afford to do that with Matt Stafford. Matt Stafford's got the most game-winning drives in whatever it is, either his career or definitely this season. And you can't give them the opportunity to go down and do exactly what they did. So he didn't manage the game well enough.
I think it's a bit of Burrow's sort of inexperience in that scenario, do you reckon, just shining through there, considering he's only year 2. Do you reckon he's a little bit of a rookie mentality in that kind of
Maybe,
game?
But he's been playing football his whole life.
That's true.
I've not been playing football, and I know that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
You know, when you're winning a game so they need a touchdown. A field goal ain't going to win it for you. Drain the clock as much as possible. And if you're snapping the ball 5 times with at least 10 seconds on the clock, you're not doing good enough. Like, take the clock right the way down. Firstly, you might get them to jump offside, which is going to give you a free play. And secondly, you're just draining more of that clock and giving them less time to play with. And I just don't think he did that. The second half, I think he just didn't play to the standard what we come to expect from Joe Burrow. I think I don't think he's been great the entire off season, but he
the pressure seemed to get to him as the game went on.
Yeah, I mean he was getting absolutely bullied, wasn't he, by the Rams defensive line, but I mean he had, like, the picture shows, doesn't it, that if he had a bit more time he'd have got Jamar Chase open, but I'm going to go on to talk about Jamar Chase and the person he was against in a minute.
Okay, well that's a nice little segue. So you've slapped Joe Burrow, you've signed Cooper Kupp. Let's go back to the NFC and tell us who you're going to slap from the NFC, from the Rams.
I'm going to slap Jalen Ramsey.
No shot.
Everybody thinks everyone says he's the best corner in the game. Is he? Bollocks. He's definitely not the best corner in the game. He got turned inside out numerous times this game. And yes, there was a blatant face mask that was missed by the officials on the T. Higgins touchdown. Or one of the T. Higgins touchdowns.
When you watch that in real time, though, when you watch that in real time, it doesn't really, I don't feel like it affects the play that much.
Not really. I mean, it wasn't as if he's grabbed his helmet and ripped him forward.
No.
He's used his momentum by pulling his helmet. I get that, and he's overshot it. But the ball was underthrown, and he was looking at the ball, so he wasn't making that play anyway. He got burnt by
Ja'Marr Chase.
By Ja'Marr Chase on the first one, and then at the end of the game, Ja'Marr Chase had his ankles broken. Jalen Ramsey was flat on the floor.
Mm-hmm.
And if Joe Burrow had maybe a second more with that, Donald ploughing through every man going to try and get to him. But if he had a second more, the game's over because he's just going to lob it and Ja'Marr Chase is running for a 60-yard touchdown. But I just think he's mega overrated. I mean, he's a good corner. Obviously, he's a good corner, but he's not quick. He's like 6'1", so he's not got the speed of some of the other corners. But I think quarterbacks don't throw at him as much because of his reputation.
Yeah,
I think Burrow was throwing at him, and I think the Bengals receivers were abusing him a little bit.
He got exposed in that game for sure.
Yeah, he got away with a blatant holding call.
Definitely.
So I mean, they even out. Do you know what I mean? The holding call and then the face mask, but I think he's massively overrated. I don't like him. He's a cocky twat.
He is cocky, very much so. So take one to the chin, Jalen Ramsey, and then finally your NFC sign. So who nearly did the business for the Bengals?
The best player on the Bengals, without a doubt, was Logan Wilson, their linebacker.
The linebacker on defense.
Yeah, an absolute stormer of a game.
He was everywhere, wasn't he?
Yeah, and he got called on a pass interference call, I think, at the end of the game. But I think he had an absolute great game. Hubbard had a good game.
Hendrickson had a decent game.
Yeah, there was a few of them that had a good game, but Wilson was good. He had 8 tackles and an assist as well, but he was just all over. Seemed to be all over. I think he had a pass deflection as well. He was you could tell he was in the Super Bowl. His mentality was, I need to make all the plays I can. I think he had a great game.
Nice. That's a little bit of an out there one, that is. Not that I wouldn't have picked him, but
I like my linebackers.
You do like your linebackers, don't you, Dave?
Yep.
Nice. Okay, cool. There you go. That's your NFC and AFC slaps from the Super Bowl.
It is. And we shall pass the mic over. Who are you going to sign from the AFC?
So my AFC sign is Joe Mixon. And for a number of reasons, and I feel like it's a sign that comes with a bit of if only as well, because Joe Mixon had a good game, not a great game because he didn't. He had 72 yards on the ground off 15 carries. Most people say that's not a bad outing for a running back. It's not. If you carry the ball 15 times and get 70 something yards off it, it's an okay day. They could have done a lot more with him, and they should have. He shouldn't have had 15 carries in that game. He should have had 25. They should have ran that ball another 10 times in the second half when they were up. Just as you said, Dave, he wasn't making the Rams look stupid on defense because nobody does, but he was gaining good chunk yards. And if they'd have used him a bit more appropriately, they could have taken so much more time off the clock, not given the Rams an opportunity to come back. But what he did do, he did well in that game, Joe Mixon. He's had a really stellar season. He's definitely pushed himself into this sort of, I don't think I'd put him in my top 5 running backs, but he's definitely top 10. Definitely top 10 running backs this year. And to put sort of like the icing on the cake, he threw a touchdown in this one as well, which was a lovely little trick play. You wouldn't have expected it. Everyone was thinking that Joe Burrow's the man with the cannon, which he is. But Joe Mixon, it's a mix between the two of them there. Joe Mixon took a little fake toss out to the right, which drew all the defenders in, including the safety, and he just sort of teardropped it into the back of the end zone for a touchdown for Higgins. And That's, not necessarily a conventional play, but that's how you go about winning against the Rams defense. And the Bengals had done everything right, everything they needed to do to try and get a win in Los Angeles against the Rams up until midway through the third quarter. And they should have just rolled with Joe Mixon a little bit more, tried to chew that clock, just as you said, run that clock down to 1-2 seconds, and then snap the ball and slam it straight into Joe Mixon's chest and chew another 40-50 seconds off the clock.
Yeah, I mean, he was averaging nearly 5 yards a carry.
I mean, that is good if that's the case.
Yeah, 4.8 yards, which is exactly what you need.
Mm-hmm.
It gives you a third and short on every single down. Do you know what I mean? That he's carrying the ball. And if only they would have just ran the ball on some of them plays. I mean, I've got it up here. I was going to mention it later on, but I'm just going to say it now. These were their last. This is why I slapped Joe Burrow. Their last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 plays. Yeah, punt, turnover on downs.
No, it's not good, is it?
No.
You can't expect to continue and win a second half with that kind of performance.
No, and it was this. It's 3 plays. So the first one, 3 plays, minus 3 yards, 1 minute 30. When you've got to think, even if you run the ball 3 times, that's what, 40 seconds a minute.
And you're probably going to get plus yardage.
Yeah, so that's at least 2 minutes per play, and then you punt it. Yeah. Next one, 3 plays, 5 yards. 2 minutes, 11 seconds. 5 plays, minus 2 yards. 7 plays, 24 yards. 5 plays, 26 yards. For 46 seconds, that last one. 4 plays for 46 seconds. So they cost themselves. They were definitely in position to win that game. Yeah,
for sure. So yeah, they should have used Joe Mixon more, and that's why I'm signing him, because I think that next year, coaches need to be a bit smarter. Burrow needs to be a bit smarter, and the Bengals could be in with a chance again. But it's so hard to get back to a Super Bowl. They should have had that opportunity wrapped.
You can't. Yeah, you can't. Look at Aaron Rodgers. You have to take the opportunity when it's given to you. That's fine. The Bengals have been to the Super Bowl now 5 times, I think, and not won one.
Damn, that sucks.
To be them, yeah. Right, who are you going to slap from the AFC? We'll stay in the AFC. Who are you going to slap from the AFC?
I'm going to slap the Bengals, not in general, but the Bengals offensive line. And again, this was a tale of 2 halves, so I'm slapping every single one of them. Centre, 2 guards, right and left tackle, all getting slapped up because they did not do a good job of protecting Joe Burrow, specifically in the second half. Like, the game was a bit of a game of 2 halves. The first half was quite exciting. There were some points scored. They were testing the field, and arguably the big score from the Cincinnati team came within the first couple of seconds in the second half and then dropped off. So almost everything that was worthy of watching as an offensive excitement for the Bengals was in the first half. And that was because they gave Joe Burrow time. They actually protected him. He was sacked once in the first half. He was sacked 6 more times in the second half. And they weren't just little sacks either. They were like meaningful, big yardage lost sacks. You got Von Miller draped all over him for 2 sacks. We'll talk about it later, but Aaron Donald caused absolute havoc as he usually does. But there was other players getting there as well. And it really, Joe Burrow is no different to any other quarterback in that circumstance. If you are pressured, you're in trouble. That's it. You Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady, when you get people chomping at your ankles, you can't set yourself to be the passer that everyone knows you are. And that is exactly what they did. And they made Burrow's second half a fucking nightmare.
Yeah, you've literally seen it in the Super Bowls.
Mm-hmm.
What did Mahomes do when he had no time to throw? You can't do anything. You can scramble out the pocket and you can try and extend a play, but
it's difficult.
Teams are up for it in the Super Bowl, and unluckily for him, his offensive line is dog turd, and it's going against the premium pass rush in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
You've got Von Miller. You've basically got 2 first ballot Hall of Famers.
Yeah, on one defensive line, which is nuts. And the other people on their defensive line are not scrubs either by any means.
No.
You've got Leonard Floyd, who was also amazing. If he's starting at the Seahawks, he's by far the number 1 pass rush, without a shadow of a doubt. But he's number 3 in the Rams world, which is bonkers, absolute bonkers. But they all got to him. 6 sacks, was it 6 or 7? It might have been 7 sacks in the second half. Burrow must be battered and bruised today. He must be feeling it. Yeah, and the thing is, I know I'm kind of praising the Rams' defensive line, but the Bengals' offensive line just needs to be better, and they haven't invested in it. There was a little bit of controversy in the draft when the Bengals took Jamar Chase instead of a premium defensive or offensive lineman, and I don't think it's the wrong move because Jamar Chase has turned out to be an absolute demon. But what they will and have to have learned in this Super Bowl and in this season, really, because Burrow has been battered all season. I think he's the most sacked quarterback in the NFL, which is a testament to everything else because they've made the Super Bowl. But they need to get better at protecting him. Last year, he had his leg snapped in half. This year, he got bullied in the Super Bowl, which ultimately lost him a Super Bowl ring. That's what happened because, you said, 2 more seconds on that last play of the game, Burrow was finding Chase because he burnt Jalen Ramsey, and that would have been almost a walk-off touchdown. So the Bengals coaching needs to look at what they've got, know that they've got an absolute beast in Joe Burrow and protect him, and that's why they're getting a slap.
I think that's what you'll see in the off-season. I think they've got a lot of cap room, and I think they're going to go after people, I'm assuming, in free agency and try and tie some of these offensive linemen up and get some hog mollies in there.
It's probably quite an appealing place to be as well now, as much as Cincinnati.
Oh, you think so, wouldn't you?
Absolute turd burglar of a place to go over the past few years, but now they've been to a Super Bowl. They've got some hype money on Joey B. I'd imagine some people would probably want to go and play there now.
Yeah, I mean Gronk said he wants to go, isn't he?
Big Gronk.
Yeah, he's not a bad bloke to have blocking for you.
That's actually very true. That definitely improves their running game, doesn't it? Immediately.
Okay, so who are you going to sign from the NFC?
No surprise, and I think that this is now my 3rd week in a row, maybe signing Mr. Aaron Donald. He's made it really easy to sign him every week. And last week he forced the game-winning play to take him, or not last week, the week before, to take him into the Super Bowl. He was the man that got the job done, got to the quarterback, ended any possibility that the Niners were going to get there and sack the life out of Jimmy Garoppolo. This week he did almost exactly the same, carbon copy, if you will, to Joe Burrow. Last play of the game. If you look at it now on the replays, Jamar Chase was gone. This could have been a touchdown that ended the Rams' Super Bowl hopes, potentially Aaron Donald's career, and he tore through like a wildebeest, demented, to get to Joe Burrow, span him round, make sure that he couldn't get the pass off. I mean, he had 2 sacks in that game, number of tackles for a loss. He's a beast. He was well up for it. You could tell that there was passion flowing through him. He was watching the offense out there. He was all over it on defense. He is an animal, and he proved it. Like, he just proved that when the game is on the line, he's a force, an unstoppable force. And he did what he needed to do, and he won that game. Cooper Kupp won the MVP. It must have been a coin flip for that MVP, because I think Aaron Donald also deserved it.
He was unbelievable. He's such a force. Like, I don't understand how there are not more people like him in the league.
Mm.
You cannot physically, if you put one person on him, that person is going to the hospital. Do you know what I mean? They're getting absolutely flat packed. He's got to be double teamed. This is the problem with the defensive line. If you double team him, you've got to go one-on-one. Your tackles have got to go one-on-one with Von Miller,
Mm-hmm.
who is no slouch.
No.
And then if by some reason your tackle managed to hold up against him, you've got Leonard Floyd the other side who's going to crush your other tackle.
Yeah.
You need to have like 7 people on your sort of like offensive line to try and stop him. It's a cheat code.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that they've not bought him in, they've drafted him. He's been there. He definitely deserves a ring. Do you know what I mean? He's a 3-time defensive player of the year.
Mm-hmm.
He's an absolute stud, you know.
Yeah.
And
he's a pure beast, and he's not built like a normal DT either.
no,
he's not.
He's
absolutely rock solid, and he's
yeah.
shredded as well. His arms are like as big as me, and yeah, for people out there, like if you were to look at normal defensive tackles, they're big guys, and don't get me wrong, they've got muscle, but they usually carry in a fair few extra pounds to try and stop the run and go against these huge humans that are on the offensive line. Aaron Donald is like, I don't know, like a mini Incredible Hulk, isn't he? He's just solid,
phenomenally powerful. Yeah, it's that get off the line, just
crazy. So I'm signing him because he in my eyes, he clinched the Super Bowl for the Rams, and he's done it week in, week out for years upon years. So mad respect.
What do you think he does now?
Yeah, there's rumours, isn't there, that he may retire. I mean, I get it. He's 30 plus. He's just won a ring. He's won 3 Defensive Player of the Years. The only thing that he's not done, well, there's 2 things that he could maybe be thinking that he wants to do. He could want to break the sack record, but I think as a DT, he's already done incredible things. I think he's had a season with 20 sacks, which is absolutely preposterous.
I think he's a 22.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, I'm gonna Google his things now.
Yeah,
but
I mean he's up there. I know that he's been close. So 20, but to do that as a DT is amazing. It's amazing. So he may be after that sack record, which I think is really hard to do, and he may be after like a regular season MVP.
Yeah,
which those are the 2 things that he's not had. Do I think?
Go on.
Sorry, go on. Go on.
I was going to say he's been in the league for 8 years. This is what I was going to Google actually. He's been in the league 8 years, and I think he's either been an All-Pro 8 times. He's definitely been a Pro Bowler 8 times.
Right.
I can't remember where the thing is. He's definitely been an All-Pro. I think like 6 times or something like that. He's never missed a game through injury.
It's like an Iron Man.
He's an absolute. I think he's at a 20 and a half season sack.
20 and a half, yeah.
Yeah, he's got 98 in his. Oh, this is what I'm after. This one here.
That's crazy though. 20 and a half sacks as a defensive tackle. I mean, that is not normal. Anybody who's vying to break the sack record is either a left or right end or an outside linebacker, because you can generate more pressure off the edge. You're generally not rushing the passer up the middle because you've got so many people in your way. Whereas he just forces his way through. 20 sack season for a DT is mental. I was going to say before you hit the stats, do I think that he could win either of those moving forward? Could he have a season MVP? Could he break the sack record? I don't think he could. I think he's had his peak. I think people now know to account for him no matter what. So I think if those are the 2 things that he maybe wants to continue playing for, retiring and hanging his boots up now as a first ballot absolute Hall of Famer might not be a bad shout. I guess it depends on money. Like, does he want to make some more money before he retires? And does he think that he's maybe got a back-to-back shot at the Super Bowl for a second ring? Maybe he does, and that might be what keeps him in the game. Yeah,
so he's been in the league 8 years. He was drafted 13th. Oh my God, there's 12 teams that are like. I guarantee that. When did he get drafted? So had he been drafted the Giants definitely would have been able to draft him. That's frustrating. He's in 8 years been in the league. He's been to the Pro Bowl 8 times. He's been an All-Pro 7 times. He's a Super Bowl champion. He's in the All-Decade team. 3-time Defensive Player of the Year. 2014 Rookie of the Year. Defensive Rookie of the Year.
Yeah, he's stacked with awards.
Yeah, absolute savage animal. I don't know how many sacks he would be off the record. I mean, he's never going to break 20, whatever the sack thing is, because like you say, people, I don't know, maybe thinking he broke it this year, didn't he? And you know for a fact people are blocking TJ Watt.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe there's a shot, but
maybe. I just think that he's maybe slightly past his physical prime, and now it's a lot more difficult for him to generate what he was generating when he had that 20 sack season. But you never know. I think that it wouldn't be a bad shout for him to hang his boots up. Personally, would I like him to? I mean, I like watching football, and he is an amazing football player, so that part of me says no. But I am a Seahawks fan, and he is in my division, and he has sacked Russell Wilson more times than any player ever in the NFL. So that would be quite nice to not see him line up against Russ every week.
Yeah, he's an absolute animal, isn't he?
Yeah. So that's it. That's why, with such a long-winded sign, we're giving massive props to the Super Bowl champion that is now Aaron Donald.
Yeah. Okay. So who are you going to slap from the NFC?
This one's easy. I'm slapping Jalen Ramsey. So for the same reason that you did, the guy got burnt all game. He's very cocky. I don't want to say he's overrated, because people do say he's amazing, because he is, but he's not the best corner in the league. He's up there, but he pretends like he's the best corner, and it's not even close, when actually Jamar Chase made him look silly. He did get pulled up for some defensive holding calls, and he's just a bit of a whingy bitch. He can't stand getting beat, and Jamar Chase made him look like a tit. Devontae Adams, whenever he plays him, makes him look so average. So like when he steps up against the best receivers, generally he gets locked down. DK Metcalf's made him look like a bit of a twat this year as well. So, I think that Jalen Ramsey deserves a slap. He probably just needs to hit that Odell mentality where Odell's now been sort of forced to swallow like that humble pie and sit within a team of superstars where, guess what, Jalen Ramsey, you're not the superstar on defense. You've got two other players in Von Miller and Aaron Donald that are much better than you in their respective positions. So that's why he's getting a slap.
Okay. I couldn't agree more, let's say. I've already slapped him.
And that's it. So that's all of them. That's the slap or signs. And the last one, it's the last slap or sign we're going to do for a while, Dave. That's season ender slap or sign.
Good way to end it, though.
Yeah, very nice. So we move across from that to our regular sector, which is on the clock. And we've only got one singular game to talk about, Dave, and that is Super Bowl 56. We've been speaking about some of the players in there, but as a game, this Super Bowl was on fire. This was watched by more than 110 million viewers that night. That's more than one every 4 households in America, and I don't know how many that works out to be globally, but that is immense. It's the most watched Super Bowl in the last 5-6 years or something. It could be all time, I'm not sure, but I definitely know that it beats last year's, and it was exactly what we wanted. I mean, in the end zone team was in Hickory's in Nottingham. We went down there at about 10 o'clock at night. We were feasting on wings and steaks and beer and waffles, and they pulled out all the stops for that Super Bowl. Actually, they had decorations up and private booths. It was really, really good. But this one set the standard for what is a good Super Bowl. It was close, it was competitive, and that's what you want in a Super Bowl. Nobody wants to see a team get blown out, just like the other two games, the previous NFC and AFC championships. It was decided by 3 points. and the Bengals beat the Rams 20. Sorry, the Bengals beat the Rams.
We wish.
We were wishing for the Bengals to beat the Rams, but the Rams beat the Bengals 23-20, even though the Bengals were holding the lead going into the fourth quarter. They just couldn't get it done. Both quarterbacks played relatively decent football in this one. Matt Stafford had 280 yards, 3 touchdowns, but his mistakes came to haunt him. He had 2 interceptions. Burrow didn't throw an interception, but he was terrorized on the ground by the defensive line of the Rams. He threw for 263 and a touch. Joe Mixon, running back, threw for a touchdown for the Cincinnati Bengals, which is where they got their points from. But it was the Rams, Matt Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Aaron Donald's night. And actually, we didn't speak about him, but Dave, your boy, and I know he's your boy because he's why you're a Giants fan, Odell had a night until he had to go off.
Yeah, he'd have absolutely. I think he was. What did he have? He did a touchdown and he had something like 50 yards in a quarter?
Yeah, 1 quarter less than 52 yards and a touchdown, and he looked like he was tearing up the secondary of the Bengals.
He was definitely prepped for the game, and sadly, he's torn his ACL again. So he'll be. And this is a year where he was hopefully going to get paid. His contract's up at the end of this year, so it'd be interesting to see what he does going forward. Whether he wants to go back to the Rams on a bit of a prove it kind of year again, or he's going to look to go somewhere else.
Difficult that. I mean, ACL tear on the same knee that he tore his ACL last time. That's never going to be a good look for a player. You tear your ACL twice. He's coming towards the latter end of his prime years. If I was him, I'd be taking a lower deal and staying at the Rams and just seeing what I can do, because he doesn't need to be the big man at the Rams, does he? He's got Cooper Kupp. He's got. They'll have Robert Woods returning from injury. He can just be a part and a key member of that team. And so he looked electrifying though in that first 10 minutes in the Super Bowl. I know it was only 10 minutes, but he did look good. He looked like the ode Odell.
Yeah. Do you reckon it's going to have an impact on what they say about it? Because everyone now saying that they need to get rid of the artificial surfaces because there's no give. So I mean, I know the Giants are looking at getting their getting rid of the AstroTurf and going back to grass, which I hope they do, because we've had some injuries. So hopefully, I think the league should go back to grass anyway. Who wants to play on AstroTurf? Do you know what I mean? No,
exactly. I think Odell has come out and said that he's willing to take less money anyway to stay in LA. I think this was before he had his ACL. I'd be concerned about him actually being able to return, as in 2 ACL tears on your same leg. It's not good. I'm sure he'll come back and play football. It's just like he's been beat up, broken ankle, ACL tears, bad shoulder. He's probably been through the ringer. At least he's got a ring now.
Yeah, that's what I mean. He could probably retire and just, if he didn't want to play football, he could completely retire. He could get in movies, whatever he wanted. He's got that personality, in he? Mm-hmm. So hopefully it's all good for him, because I do like Odell Beckham.
Yeah,
do like me some Odell.
And yeah, the story of the day really was the defense that came to play. I mean, the Bengals did well as well on defense to shut down Matt Stafford and the Rams for as long as they did. We're talking they had 16 points going into the fourth quarter, which is not normal for the Rams really. They won 12 games this season, dominated a lot of other teams, but the Bengals did as much as they could, and it felt like just enough for 3 quarters. And then offense and defense on both sides of the ball just gave in. They didn't collapse, but they just gave in. They couldn't sustain it for the full 4. Burrow couldn't keep the game rolling the way he should. Their offensive line absolutely collapsed. I'd imagine they were absolutely knackered. Trying to stop Aaron Donald for 3 quarters, and Von Miller and Leonard Floyd and whoever else was coming forward. So I'd imagine fatigue played a part. I know they were playing with a backup guard. So nobody wants to be in that position when you're in the Super Bowl. But the Rams, credit to them, they did what they needed to do and got the job done. And at halftime, when we thought that it was anybody's game, the Bengals were down at halftime, but they immediately came out and scored. Or were they up at halftime?
No, they were down.
They were down at halftime.
I think they scored a field goal, I think, to go in, and then
so they
came
went
out
in
and
down.
then hit the big play,
big juicy play, and I reckon that might have been down to the fact that they'd been listening to "Lose Yourself" by Eminem at halftime, giving it the old knees weak, palms are sweaty, vomit on his sweater already, mom's spaghetti, and it probably jolted Joey Shiesty into a new form of next level football, but it only lasted for about 30 seconds. He threw a touchdown and then totally collapsed. But what did you reckon to the Super Bowl halftime show then, Dave? We had Eminem, Dr. Dre, Kendrick Lamar, Snoop Dogg, Mary J. Blige, and then a guest hidden hanging from the rafters like a fat Batman.
Yeah, I'd say them rafters must have been pretty strong because 50 Cent has put some poundage on.
Yes, and so 50 Cent came in and hit in the club. What do you reckon, Dave? I mean, I've second watched it because where we were, it was loud and it was hard to hear. On a second watch, it was definitely a more impressive spectacle when you can crank the sound up.
I think,
go on.
I think on first watch, like I say, I was a little bit underwhelmed because with that caliber of like superstars from the rap game of yesteryear, with the exception of probably Kendrick Lamar, who's still pretty relevant. I was a little bit underwhelmed, but then, like I say, having rewatched it was good. I mean, I think there was too much. It was good to see. I don't want to get into like the race thing, but it was like a lot of the past Super Bowl, they've kind of been all white people. So it was good to see like a load of like kind of black superstar rappers, all you'd crammed them all in together, which I think any one of them, Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg,
Eminem could have headlined on their own, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Eminem's white, but like they could, and even 50 Cent, do you know what I mean? They could be like an amazing 30-minute spectacle at the halftime show on their own. So I do think it was a bit of a cop-out to get them all together, but
I think that's what bothered me a little bit, because you only heard "Lose Yourself" by Eminem. That was it. He came out and did sort of like, he accompanied Dre. But like, he only had that one song, and Eminem's catalogue is just staunch. Like, he could have come out and dropped an absolute bomb. He could have dropped Rap God or My Name Is or whatever, and everyone would have been loving it. But the focus was on Dre. I thought Dre and Snoop, they had some like old school chemistry going on the roof of that house. Snoop was just popping. It was nice. And I think that the suffer from it was the fact that you didn't see as much of everybody that you wanted to see. Like, you could have just seen all Dre. You could have seen all Snoop. You could have seen all Eminem. And the fact that they kind of mixed them all in was good and cool, but maybe to the detriment of the show.
You could have dropped Kendrick Lamar. He didn't seem great at all. He's just not got them bangers that. And Mary J. Blige has like got one song. And that's it. Like, she did it, and it was like, yeah, all right, nice one, get off the stage because I want to hear. Even 50 Cent's got some bangers, you know, but it was good. It was good. I just think that, like, of the last couple, I still think J-Lo and Shakira was.
Obviously, you do.
Was the best. I
That's
like
because Eminem did come out in a G-string.
You weren't that high on the week. I love The Weeknd though. I think The Weeknd last year was mint, but
I thought the production on it was amazing, and I think that's what this one lacked a little bit of. It's like almost like, which I get, they probably pulled back the production because they were like, we don't need any production with these guys. But it felt like they kind of did a little bit. Like, it just felt, because they were running around on the rooftops. I'd have liked to have seen a bit more zoom in, a bit more like, I don't know, more of an intimate stage as opposed to them like opening it all out for the whole time. But I guess you're also looking to try and entertain the 70 something thousand people that are in the stadium as well. So it's not just for people on the camera at home. But what a lineup! Absolute rap god legends, all West Coast OGs, and yeah, it was good to see. And on a second watch, I'd watch it again. I'd definitely think it was a hype half time. I bet the players were feeling it when they came back out. Not that they probably listened to it.
Yeah, that thing he stayed out, didn't he? Evan McPherson stayed
out.
out.
The kicker for the Bengals. What a baller.
Yeah, didn't even go into the half-time locker room, was just sat there. Didn't give a fuck.
He doesn't need no chat, does he? He's always slotting kicks. If they want him to kick him, he don't care. He's just sat there losing himself to Eminem. So it was good. And yeah, I mean, next year, some shoes to fill to beat that lineup at least.
Who'd you even bring out?
Dunno,
When's Drake going to do one?
Yeah, Drake, Kanye. I mean, Kanye's absolutely nuts. Sat in the crowd with a balaclava with some hole punches in it.
Yeah, sat next to Antonio Brown.
Yeah, those two, like, they just need to be put in a box. Then they're mad, like both mad as fish. But yeah, who knows next year? It needs to be an absolute stud to keep up with them. You go East Coast and bring out like Jay-Z,
maybe
and Rockefeller and all of that label. Maybe
who's he got though? He ain't got nobody that's gonna like. He can't.
Go into the Rockefeller label and I bet you could pull some ballers out. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Jay-Z and Beyonce. Nah.
Who's she? She ain't Shakira. Her hips don't lie.
So yes, that was the halftime show, and the game wrapped up and finished. And Sean McVay looked like he was one happy man, the coach of the LA Rams.
He was bricking it.
Yeah,
at one point when the camera was looking at him, he looked like he was shitting bricks.
He did,
because he was about to choke down another Super Bowl loss.
He did look nervous for sure, and you would be, I suppose. At that point, they weren't playing fantastic football. They were getting slammed on defense, and Matt Stafford throwing a couple of interceptions, and I'd imagine his bottom was very tight, but he got the job done, and I think it's well deserved for him as a coach. He's proving that you don't have to be older than God's dog to be a coach in the NFL. You can be a young, offensive-minded maverick that can come in and kind of change the way that teams play, which he has done for the Rams totally. Stepped in for Jeff Fisher and transformed them into a winning team overnight, pretty much. And just now he's added Matt Stafford and Von Miller cherries on top to make them the Super Bowl champs. But, he got the Gatorade bath at the end. 36, youngest coach to ever win a Super Bowl. Yeah. So good on him.
He could have won one at 33.
Yeah, that's nuts, isn't it? My age.
That is fucking insanity.
Yeah. So well done, Sean McVay, as well for that. And the Rams win it. They win it all. They take the Super Bowl crown. They're going to get their fancy rings, and I think they deserve it. They're in the probably the hardest conference and division in the NFL. They've dominated throughout. They've had the best receiver in the game playing for them. They've had the best defensive tackle playing for them. One of the best quarterbacks this year playing for them. It was kind of written in the stars. I think going into this, a lot of people were asking me like, who you got? And I was like, the Rams are going to win, but I want the Bengals. And that was the feeling. Albeit it was a lot more closely matched in the game than I thought it was going to be, which was nice to see.
Yep, agreed.
Mm-hmm. Cool. All right, so we've done that, and now we talk about some awards. We go into this section called It Was an Honor for the NFL Honors. And this weekend, as per usual, before the Super Bowl, the NFL Honors are given out. And these are awards given to the players at the end of a season, the end of the 2021 season. There are a number of them. We've done podcasts in the past predicting our own honours. I think that we were close with some and a long way off with others. But Dave, I'm just going to run through these honours, and I want you to just give me a quick, do you agree or do you disagree, and why? But basically, we'll start with the one of the first awards that was given out in the night, and that was the Coach of the Year. So this award goes to generally a head coach, and this is a head coach, but a head coach of a football team who has had the most impact or best performance of the year. And this one, Coach of the Year, went to Mike Vrabel from the Tennessee Titans. Now, the Titans managed to finish with the top seed in the AFC, despite having had a number of players go down injured, most notably Derrick Henry, their best player by far. But Julio Jones was out for a lot of the year. A.J. Brown was out for a lot of the year. Bud Dupree was out for a lot of the year, and they still won the AFC somehow. But do you think that was enough for Mike Vrabel to be crowned Coach of the Year?
They couldn't have gotten this more wrong if they'd have picked a basketball coach to be this. There's no way on this planet Mike Vrabel deserves to be Coach of the Year when, firstly, it should 100% have been Zach Taylor from the Bengals, from taking them from like 3 wins to the playoffs.
And then to the Super Bowl. Yeah,
it doesn't matter what position they finished, to get them into the playoffs with a good record, and they sat Joe Burrow for the last game, so there would have been a game better than what they were. The Titans weren't even the best team in the AFC. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, they had the
best record,
seed,
but they played some absolute scrubs.
Yeah, they didn't. We all knew they weren't the best team in the AFC. It's I don't know. There's no. How many did you say that Zach Taylor got? 2 votes.
Zach Taylor got 2 votes of the honours committee. Yeah.
Yeah, pathetic.
2.
No,
that's who I picked in my previous pick, was Zach Taylor.
Yeah, as did I. Mike Vrabel should definitely not have won it.
No, I agree. 100%. So, sorry, Mike Vrabel, if you ever listen to this, but
I mean, like, if you give it to a good coach, give it to Matt LaFleur, who's lost like 9 games in the last 4 years or something.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, definitely.
Full jive.
So, soz about that, but we don't agree. In the End Zone UK, vetoes Mike Vrabel.
Yeah.
Next was Comeback Player of the Year. So there's a few that could have been up for this one. We previously spoke about them in our other podcasts, and me and you disagreed on this one, Dave. But they gave this one Comeback Player of the Year to the Super Bowl quarterback, not champion, but quarterback, Joe Burrow from the Cincinnati Bengals. He bounced back from a knee injury that ended his rookie season last year. He was out after week 10, didn't play another game, had to go through full rehab, and he led the Bengals to their first playoff berth since 2015 this year. And obviously, from what we saw in the playoffs, the guy also kept it rolling into the off season and all the way to the third quarter of the Super Bowl where he collapsed. But do you agree with this one, Dave, or do you stand by your original pick, which was actually Dak Prescott at the time? And I think at the time he was on fire and then dropped off a cliff.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, there's a few players you could probably have given it to. I wouldn't have been upset if they'd give it to Dak because he did have a horrific ankle injury. Mm-hmm. But I mean, Joe Burrow tore his ACL, his MCL, didn't he? He had a nasty twisted leg.
Yeah.
And he's balled out throughout the whole year, so yeah, why not?
Yeah,
no,
why not? He completed 70.4% of his passes this year.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he led the league in pass completion and being sacked, which is pretty unbelievable.
That is next level. I didn't even know that.
So yeah, no, more than happy with Joe Burrow getting it. I think he's had a great year, and it's just, I think hopefully next year we can keep it up as well. So.
Mm-hmm. Nice. Next we move on to the rookies. So we'll talk about the Defensive Rookie of the Year, and this one at the NFL Honors went to Micah Parsons, linebacker for the Cowboys. Micah Parsons is the first Cowboy to win Defensive Rookie of the Year after a season that saw him record 13 sacks, I think, which is third most by a rookie since the sacks began to be counted in the 80s. But he was at times a bit of a demon, wasn't he, Dave? And so they've obviously acknowledged that fact.
Yeah, he had a good season. I don't think there was any other rookie defensive player that stood out. Like, he was head and shoulders better than, not necessarily better, but his statistical numbers were better than other rookies. So I think it'd have been difficult to give it to anybody but him. He was the best. I don't want to say he was the best defensive rookie, but his numbers on paper were the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's fair. He made impact plays and he got a few sacks. I think there was some players that maybe didn't get enough credit. Patrick Surtain was very good for the Broncos.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, good corner. It's sacks, isn't it? People look at numbers like if he'd have had Trayvon Diggs as interceptions, he'd have got it.
Definitely.
Do you know what I mean? Or he'd have been in the conversation to have it. So I think they just employed him very well in a scheme that suits his high motor. Mm-hmm. I think if you played Devin White like you played him, Devin White would kill somebody. Do you know what I mean? Because he's a high motor, but he's a unit as well.
Yeah.
So no, I'm pretty content that he got that. To be honest with you, good on him.
Yeah.
No, he's a cowboy, and I think he's got the personality of an absolute dick, but he's probably a good dude, really.
Agreed. Micah Parsons, Defensive Rookie of the Year. We'll see what things he can bring to the table in year two. And then flipping over to the Offensive Rookie of the Year, that was given to yet another Bengal, and that is Ja'Marr Chase. So it's not much of a surprise that Ja'Marr Chase won this one. He was drafted with a 5th overall pick last year. Joe Burrow's go-to receiver at LSU, and now his go-to receiver in Cincinnati. He set so many records this year. Single season team record for most receiving yards in a game at 266, most receiving yards altogether at 1,455, and he was averaging 18 yards a reception. So,
oh my God.
I think he also was the first Bengals player to have multiple 200-yard games in the same season, which is nuts because they had AJ Green for about 10 years, who was classed as one of the best receivers for a long time. So the future looks bright for Ja'Marr Chase. There was a few offensive rookies, I guess, that you could have thrown into the mix, but I think he, again, very much like Micah Parsons, probably stood out just head and shoulders above any other rookies that came out of the draft this year.
Yeah, I think people were saying for about 4.5 minutes that Mac Jones might have been getting the award, but
I actually picked Mac Jones in my predictions because I thought not now, but when we did it mid-season, because he was on a bit of a roll, and I thought a rookie quarterback who's winning games is probably going to get a lot of recognition. But I'm glad that he actually didn't, because it turns out that he's probably more of a scheme player actually. Ja'Marr Chase is more of an individual.
But Ja'Marr Chase looks special. Mac Jones doesn't look special.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean? He's not he's not blowing away anybody. Nobody's saying he's going to be the next fucking Joe Montana or anything like that. He's just he's just a steady quarterback.
Let's see what Ja'Marr Chase has got year two. If year one's anything to go by, that'll be mega. And we thought the same about Justin Jefferson last year when he won it, right? And he blasted Justin Jefferson's record, which was held prior to that by Odell. So these are some big moves being made by Ja'Marr Chase here. So we'll see. On to the next one, which is a huge one in the NFL. It's a big award. Everyone's vying for it as the Defensive Player of the Year. This one could have been given to maybe one or two other people, but I think the stats just come and tie this one up. And that was this was given to TJ Watt, a linebacker from the Pittsburgh Steelers. And despite him missing 2 full games due to injury this year, he had his first Defensive Player of the Year award with 22.5 sacks on the season, which is tying the most sacks ever in the single season with Michael Strahan. And I think he deserved it, right, Dave? With that stat in itself, not taking into account the fact that he had 5 fumbles and an interception and absolute just pure game wrecker no matter where he is on the pitch.
Yeah, I think this should be his second one. I think he should have won it last year as well.
Yeah.
But you can't argue 22 sacks. You can't. Was it 22 or 22 and a half?
22 and a half.
Yeah. You can't argue with that.
Nah, that's pure elite
all.
status. That is.
Yeah. If you're that dominant as a pass rush, you deserve the credit that you get, and I think he deserves it. So.
Mm-hmm. Nah, for sure. His brother JJ Watt, who's also an two-time defensive player of the year?
3.
Is it 3? 3-time defensive player of the year. Awarded it to TJ Watt on the honours stage, which was nice to see. I mean, that is a specimen family, innit?
Yeah.
JJ Watt and TJ Watt, brothers of back-to-back defensive players of the year. Crazy. 2 more left. One being the offensive player of the year. So I think this one could have gone to a number of people, and I don't know if it's gone to the right one. In my opinion, it probably has. But the conversation was probably closer for this award than any of them, and that's offensive player of the year. And it was awarded to Cooper Kupp, the wide receiver from the Los Angeles Rams. Now, he had one of the most productive seasons of a wide receiver in NFL history. He's like only the 4th player in the Super Bowl era to win a Triple Crown, which was what you mentioned earlier, Dave. And that's in itself is very, very difficult to do. But he had 1,947 receiving yards.
Yeah.
That's nuts. He was like 50 yards off the number 1 spot. He's now sat at number 2, only trailing to Megatron, Calvin Johnson. And he was a demon all season. Could get free, carried the Rams into the playoffs single-handedly almost. And yeah, he's a beast, and it's gone to him.
Yeah, and who else could it have gone to? Jonathan Taylor.
Jonathan Taylor, I thought was worthy of it, but his reign was just knocked a little bit short because of teammates. I think Carson Wentz ruined his opportunity of offensive player of the year because Wentz is so garbage that Taylor didn't get the chance to play in the playoffs or even feel like he was like that player that was carrying his team into the playoffs because Wentz is shit. But he had a very, very good season. He was one of the most standout players, don't you think, as well, Taylor?
Yeah, I just think, and I said it all season long. I just think that if Derrick Henry was in the league, played all year, you wouldn't have been talking about Jonathan Taylor. Nobody would. He'd have just been like, oh, he's had a good year. Just he's only 400 yards behind Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
And did he even reach 2,000 yards?
No, it was 1,800 and something. So
yeah, no. and that was coming off a year where Derrick Henry had reached 2,000 last year.
Yeah, and he won Offensive Player of the Year last year, didn't he?
Yeah, but to put Cooper Kupp's numbers in perspective, he reached that total whilst the team, they weren't junk yards. A lot of the time, the Rams were beating people, and he was getting 100 plus yards every game, and they were beating teams. When Calvin Johnson would have got his record,
they'd have been chasing games because the lines were shit.
They'd have been empty calories, just like all of Dak Prescott's yards. Do you know, where they're just junk yards, where teams are giving them playing soft coverage or they're blowing teams. Do you know what I mean? It's not like
totally.
And that's the difference, I think, between Cooper Kupp and Calvin Johnson.
Yeah, Cooper Kupp's playing in a winning offense and demonstrating his ability to win, whereas Calvin Johnson was generally playing in a trailing offense who were throwing the ball to stay alive, basically.
Yeah, so I think it's thoroughly deserved. To win that award and win the Super Bowl MVP, that's special.
Yeah, he's covered in pure hotline bling, isn't he?
He is, yeah.
Which takes us on to our final award. Somebody who is covered in pure hotline bling, but not probably not the bling that he wants. And this is the MVP award, so most valuable player in the NFL. This one went to a Mr. Aaron Rodgers, quarterback of the Green Bay Packers. I mean, to give him his props, nobody took care of the ball better than Rodgers did this year. He had 48 touchdowns and only 4 interceptions for the whole year, which is an amazing ratio, which, you know, people look at this stuff and go, right, what an amazing ratio. It is an amazing ratio. He was last year's MVP. His team were 13-4 this year, so you know they only lost 4 games. He did everything he needed to do. He also avoided the COVID jab and lied about it. He was also a whingy bitch at the start of the year and had his best mates drafted into his teams. But not to take away from it, Aaron Rodgers is one hell of a quarterback. He just can't get it done in big moments.
No, he's the ultimate joke artist, I think, isn't he? And it will tarnish his legacy. I mean, he's won a Super Bowl, but...
One. Eli's got more than him, Dave.
Yeah, he has, yeah. And more than Ross.
Why'd you have to go there? I'm trying to jump on your side here, and then you kick me in the nuts.
Hey, the quarterback with the most passing yards in NFL history in the playoffs is one Eli Manning, so... Not even Matt Stafford could beat him a Cooper Cup.
Do you agree, Aaron Rodgers, or should it have been Brady? Because I personally think Brady.
I think when you're throwing 48 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, and your team has the best record, you know what I mean? You deserve to be. I mean, I don't like him, but I would love him on my team. He's just a weird, creepy looking creep. I don't know. He's an unbelievable quarterback. Probably. We'll see what Mahomes does in his career, but probably the most talented quarterback to ever play the game.
Mm-hmm. Arm talent wise, yeah.
Yeah, and he's obviously he can move well enough to get first downs with his legs. He can score touchdowns with his legs.
Throw on the gun.
He can make all the throws that you need to make. I mean, if he probably wanted to do sidearm no look throws, he could probably do it.
He's smart as well, obviously. Probably one of the smartest quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think that's what I mean. All round encompassing, he's probably the best quarterback to ever play the game. He's got the MVP silverware. I mean, he's one of 4 quarterbacks to ever win back-to-back MVPs. He's just not. He just can't get to the Super Bowl. I mean, if he got to the Super Bowl, I'm sure he'd win it.
Yeah, no, he probably would. Yeah, he just can't get there, and that's the thing. That is the thing. He sat there with 1 ring, and then the next person who you talk about as best quarterback ever, Mr. TB12, Tom Brady, the GOAT, sat there with 7. You can't even compare.
No, you can't put him in the same. Tom Brady's without a doubt the best quarterback to ever play football, but the most skilled, he is not.
No. And that's it.
But he's a winner. He's a born winner. That's all you need to say.
He is. So Rodgers, his future is not necessarily dead set in the NFL at the moment. He could go and host Jeopardy. He could go and play for a different NFL team this year. He has made it very clear that he doesn't necessarily want to be in Green Bay if the stars don't align, but he's also said that he's open to it. I think there's a lot of landing spots for him, and I'd like to see him move because I quite like the idea of him proving that he can do the same thing somewhere else under a different team, different coach, a little bit like what Brady did. It'd be exciting to see him somewhere else.
Yeah,
Beg he doesn't go to the Niners.
Great in New York. I think he'd be really good in New York.
Do you reckon?
With the Jets.
David love it. Not the Jets.
No.
The Giants.
Fucking right, I'd want him at the Giants.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. So David want him at the Giants. He'd probably do really well at the Niners, Broncos, Saints, Bucks. Now Brady's retired. There's loads of potential landing spots for him. I would very much like to see him not stay in Green Bay because Green Bay fans annoy me. And they're smug as fuck. It'd be love to see him play with Jordan Love for a year.
Oh.
Absolutely hilarious.
Yeah.
And that was the NFL honours. That was the honours of this year that were delivered to the aforementioned players. And what that does is that takes us to the end of this podcast, Dave. That takes us to the last podcast of the 2021 season.
Fear not.
Fear not, as Dave said. It's been an absolute blast bringing this to you each week, and so much we are not going to stop. We've got some big plans for the off-season, draft, free agency, and even bigger plans, have we not, Dave, for 2022?
Yes, we have.
Revamping our studio, rolling out some merchandise, t-shirts, hats, mugs that you might have already seen on our Instagram already, and we'll continue into the off-season. As long as Dave's game, I'm game, and we'll be hitting you with bi-weekly or fortnightly, however you want to say it, podcasts, bringing you latest news from the NFL. The off-season is where all of our teams look to load up on new players or draft new players to try and get to that Super Bowl all over again. That's the reason why we do it. That's where we want to be. We've just watched one and we're back in. The 2022 season has now started. In addition to this, keep an eye on our Instagram, on our Reels, and on our YouTube channels. We will be releasing this off-season training camp back to basic videos for new or existing NFL fans who just want to learn a little bit more to help explain and learn the basics. We're talking teams, rules, plays, positions, and much more to help expand the world of the NFL into the UK. And in the end zone is just going to keep moving forwards in it, Dave, and we hope that we bring people with us.
Yep. Definitely appreciate everyone who's bought into the little pairing that we've got going on. And yeah, just keep listening out. We have got plans moving forward to bring new stuff to the masses of people who listen.
Masses.
In the thousands that are listening at the minute. And just bear with it. We're going to be bringing some good news, hopefully, when it comes out. Any good news or bad news, depending on what team you fancy.
Exactly. Yeah, there's loads coming in the off season. That's what it's all about. It's about new teams stocking up and getting ready to make a splash for their teams to win a Super Bowl. But for now, the Los Angeles Rams are the best team in the NFL. They are the Super Bowl champions. Here's to an amazing season. Thank you, NFL. But more importantly, thank you, listeners, anybody who has listened and followed In the End Zone UK. Continue to follow, share us, subscribe, whatever it is. Keep a lookout for our off-season content and roll on next season. So, thanks very much. It's goodbye from me. Peace.
We shall see you